We've spent enough time in the world of murder drones to know one thing. Morality is not a simple equation. It's a tangled mess of corrupted programming, bioengineered cybernetics, and an uncanny eldritch monster, much like the show. In this video, I am going to place the moral alignment of most all Murder Drones characters, the mainline ones that show enough of themselves to really define a morality. For those of you unfamiliar, I will be using the D&D 9-squirrel moral alignment chart that uses the lawful, neutral, chaotic, and then the good, neutral, and evil axis. What places them on what part of the axis is ultimately defined by two things. Do they follow or adhere to a code, or actively seek to destroy a code, or do they serve themselves? So that would cover the lawful, neutral, and good part of the axis. And then the other part is their motivations for whether or not they follow a code or serve themselves. That would place them on the good, evil, or neutral part. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now first up we have Thad. Thad would be lawful neutral. Lawful because he follows a set of rules, ultimately the colony rules and like the colony policies, and neutral, albeit with good leanings, because his ultimate motivation seemed to be self-preservation and maintaining the status quo of the colony. And why I say with good leanings is because, like in the scene just prior to this one, he is shown trying to stick up for everyone while they're trying to escape. Now I will say, Khan was more than a little tricky to place on this, but ultimately I decided on lawful neutral because he shows a clear adherence to a code, but ultimately, while his motivations are good, they are like virtuous and good, he's looking out for the greater good of the colony, his PTSD and the execution of his methods would push him over into the neutral side because he abandons his own freaking daughter. A lawful good character would never do that, and he's certainly not evil. Now, Jay might be a little controversial and might surprise you. Jay would actually be lawful neutral because she shows a clear adherence to a code. J.C. Jensen and her superiors there. She wouldn't clearly not be good because she's committing genocide, but why she's doing it would push her over from evil to neutral, and that is she is just doing her job. She is doing what she is told and in essence trying to be a good employee to J.C. Jensen. The moral alignment of J.C. Jensen itself would be lawful evil because it has a very clear structure and set of rules. But what they do, exploiting sentient beings and ultimately enforcing a genocide and experimenting with some extremely dangerous and very unknown code, would make them lawful evil. The teacher is very straightforward. They represent pure apathy, no real adherence to a code, no real desire to destroy one. Arguably not the most moral person, but arguably not evil either. Teacher is straightforward, plain and simple, true neutral. Alice is, again, very simple. Alice would be chaotic evil. No real adherence to a code. In fact, she lives right outside, like, pretty much any sort of law, and just seems to want to torture, maim, and kill pretty much anything. There's disassembly drone and worker drone parts strewn about the lab she inhabits. So she just kills and destroys indiscriminately. Yeah, not much else to say about Alice. Lizzie is fairly straightforward as well. Lawful evil. She is mean spirited and very stuck up and will use the societal chain of the colony to her advantage whenever she can. Not much to say about Lizzie. Doll was pretty interesting to place. I really didn't know much to do with her, but ultimately I decided on neutral evil because she has no adherence to a code and she doesn't ultimately seek to destroy one. She ultimately seems to be playing multiple sides for her own gain, which would make her true neutral if what she was doing and how she was doing it didn't push her over into neutral evil. She maims, kills, and tortures to get what she wants, and there's really no two ways about it. Also, like, her motivation to kill V for revenge and her methods, which were killing everybody else that was in her way or that could have gotten in her way so that she would have an opportunity to kill V, doesn't necessarily scream good or neutral either. Nori was pretty hard to place because of how little we were given of her, but don't worry, you guys, I got you. I placed her accurately. So, from what we're given, she warns everybody about the coming of the disassembly drones, and warns everybody, doesn't keep the information to herself or use it to her advantage. That would place her in good. There's no strict adherence to a code or like any massive shirking of rules, so ultimately that would place her in neutral good. Now, N is one of the few characters that showed quite a bit of a swing in terms of his repositioning on the compass. He starts out as lawful neutral, ultimately adhering to the code, like JC Jensen, but, ultimately, like, altruistic and good under all the genocide and murder. He makes the shift over to neutral good, and we know this because there's no strict adherence to a code anymore, and his motivation for his actions are protecting primarily Uzi and V, even going as far as fighting and killing former allies such as Jay and Tessa. V, especially in her earlier stages, was also pretty interesting to place. she started out as chaotic neutral. Chaotic because she loved the slaughter and genocide just for the sake of it. She really got a kick out of it. And neutral because, on one hand, she's doing her job, but on the other hand, what she's doing isn't really good either. Ultimately, like, gains more becomes more altruistic and makes the shift over to chaotic good, protecting N and begrudgingly Uzi. She ultimately shirks JC Jensen's like system of rules, but doesn't have a strict moral code she follows, and isn't really neutral anymore, therefore placing her in chaotic good. Our next one up is Sin. I've seen arguments for her being lawful evil, and I'm like, where the hell did you get fact? It makes no sense. She follows no code. She is motivated by just pure wanton destruction. The canon motivation for her is to turn everything into a black hole, like everything in existence into a giant black hole so she can eat it. Her methods are chaotic and violent. She is clearly not good or neutral. She serves to destroy things and to kill and maim solely because she wants to. Very much like the Joker or Homelander, ultimately placing her in chaotic evil. Tessa is fairly straightforward. Tessa would be neutral good because she's very clearly altruistic and selfless, as is evidenced by her fixing up of the disassembly drones and worker drones and giving them shelter. But ultimately, she does break her parents' rules, even if it does save them. She is shown complying and obeying ultimately with everything else, though, but ultimately making her neutral good. Before we move on to our final character, I ask that you please like and subscribe and comment down below some content you'd like to see me do in the future. Thank you. Our final character is Uzi. Uzi is chaotic good. She is the rebel and free spirit. She rejects and disdains the rules of the colony. She's ultimately not, doesn't, it's part of her, she rejects authority and rules almost completely. But her actions ultimately push her over to being chaotic good because she does mention she is doing this to save the world and the colony, actively puts her life on the line, which is very altruistic, again, making her chaotic good. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more content. Comment down below what you'd like to see me do more of, and I will see you guys in the next video.